World War II stands as one of the most significant and devastating conflicts in human history, shaping the modern world in ways that continue to resonate today. Among the many battles and fronts of this global war, the confrontation between America and Germany remains one of the most crucial, defining the outcome of the conflict and determining the future of Europe and the world. The war officially began in 1939 when Adolf Hitler, the leader of Nazi Germany, launched a series of aggressive military campaigns aimed at expanding German territory and imposing his authoritarian ideology on the continent. Germany quickly invaded Poland, and within weeks, much of Europe was drawn into the conflict. The speed and efficiency of the German military, known as the Blitzkrieg or Lightning War, shocked the world. Entire nations were overwhelmed by the rapid advances of tanks, aircraft, and coordinated infantry attacks, leaving millions in fear and uncertainty. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic Ocean, the United States watched these developments with a mixture of concern and caution. Initially, America maintained a position of neutrality, guided by the belief that the country should avoid becoming entangled in a European war. The American public and government were still recovering from the First World War, and isolationist sentiments were strong. However, even during these years of neutrality, the United States began to prepare quietly, supplying material support to the Allies through programs such as Lend-Lease, which provided critical resources to nations resisting German aggression. This period of preparation and observation came to an abrupt end on December 7, 1941, when Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. The assault not only brought the United States into conflict with Japan, but also made it inevitable that America would confront Germany directly, as part of its alliance with the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and other nations fighting the Axis powers. America's involvement marked a turning point in the war, bringing with it immense industrial power, technological innovation, and fresh manpower that would be critical in challenging the German war machine. The United States did not face Germany immediately on the battlefield, but began by strengthening supply lines, providing strategic intelligence, and supporting operations in North Africa and the Mediterranean. American troops gradually became involved in the European theater, learning from early campaigns and preparing for the larger confrontations that would come to define the war's outcome. One of the most significant moments in the American campaign against Germany was the planning and execution of the D-Day invasion on June 6, 1944. This operation, also known as Operation Overlord, involved thousands of American soldiers, along with troops from Britain, Canada, and other Allied nations, landing on the heavily fortified beaches of Normandy, France. The operation was meticulously planned and required extraordinary coordination, bravery, and sacrifice. Soldiers faced extreme danger as they crossed the beaches under intense enemy fire, navigating obstacles, mines, and entrenched German defenses. Despite the tremendous challenges, the invasion succeeded, establishing a crucial foothold in Europe that allowed the Allies to begin the liberation of France and push toward Germany. The American war effort extended far beyond the battlefield. The United States became the arsenal of democracy, transforming its economy to meet the demands of total war. Factories, shipyards, and assembly lines produced enormous quantities of tanks, aircraft, ships, weapons, and supplies at a pace never seen before in history. Women and civilians played essential roles in this production, ensuring that the military had the resources needed to sustain campaigns across multiple fronts. American technological and scientific advancements also contributed significantly, with innovations as World War II progressed, the struggle between America and Germany intensified, shaping not only the military strategies of both nations, but also the political and social landscape of the era. By the early 1940s, the United States had fully committed to the war effort, sending troops, supplies, and resources across the Atlantic to support Allied operations in Europe. The American approach to confronting Germany combined overwhelming industrial strength, technological innovation, and carefully coordinated military campaigns designed to exploit the vulnerabilities of the Axis powers. Unlike Germany, which relied heavily on rapid and aggressive offensives, the United States emphasized sustained pressure, strategic planning, and collaboration with allied nations to gradually dismantle German control over occupied territories. One of the key theaters in this confrontation was North Africa, where American forces, alongside British and Commonwealth troops, engaged German and Italian forces in a campaign that would serve as both a testing ground and a critical stepping stone for operations in Europe. The battles in North Africa demonstrated the importance of logistics, intelligence, and combined arms tactics. American soldiers had to adapt to harsh desert conditions, extreme heat, and limited resources, while maintaining coordination with their allies. These experiences proved invaluable when planning larger operations, such as the invasion of Italy and the eventual push into German-occupied France. The North African campaign also highlighted the resilience and determination of American troops, who, despite facing well-trained and experienced German units, managed to achieve victories that boosted morale and established the United States as a formidable force in the European theater. Meanwhile, behind the front lines, America's industrial capacity became a decisive factor in the confrontation with Germany. Factories across the United States produced unprecedented amounts of war material, from aircraft and tanks to ammunition and medical supplies. Entire cities became hubs of production, with workers contributing tirelessly to ensure that soldiers had the tools they needed to fight effectively. The involvement of women in the workforce, famously represented by the cultural icon Rosie the Riveter, symbolized the collective effort of the American people and the nation's ability to mobilize its entire society for total war. This massive industrial output allowed the Allies to maintain a steady flow of reinforcements, equipment, and supplies, which gradually overwhelmed Germany's resources and capacity to sustain prolonged military campaigns. Another critical aspect of America's confrontation with Germany was the advancement of technology and intelligence. American scientists and engineers contributed innovations in radar, communications, and cryptography, which provided significant advantages on the battlefield. Codebreakers in particular played a vital role in deciphering German military communications, giving the Allies the ability to anticipate movements, plan counterattacks, and disrupt supply lines. These behind-the-scenes efforts complemented the bravery of soldiers on the front lines, demonstrating that the war against Germany was fought not only with weapons, but also with knowledge, strategy, and coordination. The liberation of occupied Europe required careful planning and precise execution. Following the success of the North African and Italian campaigns, the focus shifted to Western Europe, culminating in the D-Day invasion of Normandy in 1944, which involved meticulous coordination between American, British, Canadian, and other Allied forces. American soldiers faced formidable German defenses, including heavily fortified ears, mines, and artillery. Yet their courage and determination helped secure critical beachheads that allowed further advances into France and eventually Germany itself. Each battle tested the limits. As the conflict between America and Germany entered its final phases, the scale and intensity of operations reached new heights, demanding unparalleled coordination, determination, and sacrifice. By this time, the United States had established itself as a central force in the Allied effort, combining military prowess, industrial might, and innovative strategies to confront the increasingly desperate German defenses. Every aspect of American involvement, from frontline engagements to logistical planning, played a critical role in weakening Nazi Germany and hastening the end of the war. The American military recognized that victory would not come from isolated battles alone, but through sustained, coordinated campaigns designed to systematically dismantle Germany's ability to wage war, reclaim occupied territories, and restore stability to Europe. One of the defining characteristics of America's campaign during this phase was the emphasis on combined operations with Allied forces. American generals worked closely with British, Canadian, and other Allied commanders to plan invasions, coordinate troop movements, and synchronize attacks across multiple fronts. The liberation of France, following the success of the Normandy invasion, exemplified this cooperation. American soldiers advanced alongside their allies through towns, forests, and open fields, encountering heavily fortified positions, artillery fire, and minefields laid by German forces attempting to slow the advance. The courage, discipline, and adaptability demonstrated by these troops in the face of such challenges were critical in maintaining momentum, overcoming resistance, and securing strategic objectives. Each engagement required careful planning, precise execution, and unwavering resolve, underscoring the complexity and magnitude of America's confrontation with Germany. At the same time, the industrial and technological capabilities of the United States continued to be decisive factors. American factories produced vast quantities of tanks, aircraft, ships, and weaponry, ensuring that soldiers in Europe had the resources needed to sustain prolonged campaigns. The mobilization of the American workforce, including men and women in manufacturing, engineering, and research, allowed the military to operate with a continuous supply of modern equipment and advanced technology. Innovations in intelligence, communications, and cryptography further strengthened the American position. The efforts of code breakers, analysts, and military strategists provided critical insights into German plans and troop movements, enabling the Allies to anticipate attacks, execute counteroffensives, and exploit weaknesses in German defenses. This integration of technology, strategy, and manpower created a multi-dimensional advantage that Germany increasingly struggled to counter. The campaigns in Belgium, the Netherlands, and eventually Germany itself illustrated the intensity of the final confrontations. American forces encountered fierce resistance as they advanced into territories that had been under German control for years. Urban warfare, fortified defensive lines, and entrenched German troops made each step forward costly and challenging, requiring not only combat skill, but also leadership, coordination, and resilience. The sustained pressure applied by American and Allied troops gradually depleted German resources and morale, creating opportunities for breakthroughs that would ultimately lead to the collapse of the Nazi regime. Civilians in liberated areas provided critical support, aiding soldiers and contributing to the reconstruction of communities devastated by years of occupation and conflict. Meanwhile, the American home front remained a vital component of the war effort. Civilians continued to support the military through labor, rationing, war bonds, and scientific contributions, ensuring that soldiers abroad were equipped with the tools and resources necessary to succeed. In reflecting on the conflict between America and Germany during World War II, it becomes clear that this confrontation was not simply a series of battles, but a struggle that tested the limits of human courage, ingenuity, and resilience. The sacrifices made by soldiers on the front lines, alongside the relentless support of civilians at home, demonstrate the extraordinary capacity of a nation mobilized for a common purpose. America's involvement brought decisive military strength, technological innovation, and industrial power that ultimately helped to dismantle one of the most dangerous regimes in history. The bravery of troops, the precision of strategy, and the unity of the Allied forces highlight the importance of collaboration, determination, and leadership in overcoming even the most formidable challenges. Beyond the immediate military victories, the confrontation left lasting lessons about the consequences of unchecked aggression, the value of international cooperation, and the moral responsibility to stand against oppression. The defeat of Germany marked not only the end of a devastating war, but also the beginning of a new era of reconstruction, reconciliation, and the reaffirmation of principles such as freedom, justice, and human dignity. As we remember these events, it is essential to honor the sacrifices, reflect on the lessons, and ensure that the horrors and heroism of that period continue to guide our understanding of history, our appreciation for peace, and our commitment to safeguarding the values for which so many gave their lives.